Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to why Vice City is so beloved. Hey, man, in my personal opinion, Vice City is the best GTA game ever made. In my personal opinion, I fuck with Vice City way more than I fuck with San Andreas. Now, don't get me wrong, San Andreas is fun. It's cool, good story, good characters, and all that. But it just don't compare to Vice City, bro. Vice City it's just something about Vice City, bro. It's just something about Vice City, bro. That's why I'm hoping and praying that Grand Theft Auto 6 is can hold up to the mantle that was Vice City. Vice City is very high on my pedestal of GTA games. Okay, it's Vice City, San Andreas, and then the rest are up for grabs. I don't really care about the rest of them. I don't. But San Andreas and Vice City are definitely my most beloved of the series by far. It's not even close, but that's just me though. So I hope Grand Theft Auto 6 can fulfill that whenever it comes out. And yeah. Without further ado, let's get right into it now.
If you sat down and asked a sample of Grand Theft Auto players to pick one game from the franchise to be their favorites, the consensus you'd likely come to is that San Andreas, GTA 4, and Vice City are the most beloved titles in the series. Now, San Andreas I can definitely understand.
Nah, Grand Theft Auto 4 is good, but I'm not putting it in there with Vice City and San Andreas. They shitting on GTA 4. Don't get me wrong, GTA 4 got a great story. GTA 4 got a great story. The main story, Nico's story. Now, Lost in the Dam and Ballad of Gay Tony, I don't care about neither one of them. Them side stories, fuck out of here. But they're good. They're good stories. It's a good story, but you don't really interact with that city. That city is so, like, for it to be based off of New York and for it to be so fucking bland to the point where you don't even really interact with the city because you'll just hop in it. Because as soon as you get a good chunk of money, you gonna be in the fucking you're gonna be going through the fucking taxi cab. So you're not even gonna really be enjoying the city because you don't even want to drive. Because the driving mechanics are so fucking terrible that you don't even want to drive. You got to think about that. But that's just me though. That's just me though. I can't really put Grand Theft Auto 4 in there at all. It's GTA 4. It's GTA Vice City and San Andreas, and there's nothing else after that, in my personal opinion.
Seeing as how it was such a groundbreaking title back in 2004 and how well it holds up in the modern day. I can agree with GTA 4's fans as well, considering how immaculate its story is and how fun it can be to mess around with its physics. But Vice City? What exactly is so special about it? I mean, at its core, it's just a carbon copy of GTA 3 with a vibrant pink filter over it. So how can this game possibly have such a following that people might put it above, say, GTA 5? Before we really get into things here, let me just say first and foremost that I'm a big fan of Vice City. It's a game that I love to come back to and experience every now and then because it genuinely is a good game in my opinion. I actually just played through it twice recently. Once for DT December, which was kind of rushed, and then again just to experience it properly one more time before making a video on it. But how can I think it's a good game when it's so fundamentally similar to GTA 3, a game that I've made very clear that I dislike? In this video, I'm looking to figure out not just what it is that makes Vice City so much better than its predecessor, but also how a game with such archaic mechanics can possibly hold up to the point where people might put it on a pedestal higher than its successors. And yes, I do realize that nostalgia plays a heavy role into how people may determine which GTA game is their favorite, which is something that I won't fault anybody for, as I'll be the first to admit that a lot of my love for San Andreas is undeniably nostalgia driven. But even without that nostalgia factor, I firmly believe that Vice City is a great game. So over the next however many minutes this video ends up being, I'm going to tell you why. First and foremost, let's go over Vice City's badass story. When we first open the game, we're treated to a cutscene focused on the game's main antagonist, Sonny Forelli, who quickly exposits how his role in the story is going to play out. As he foretells, the Forelli family are going to send Tommy Vercetti, a member of the gang who's just finished serving a 15-year sentence, down to Vice City to expand the mob's influence down there. Then, once he's established a foundation for them, the Forellis will pay him a visit to take over his operations. And with that, it's time to put his plan into motion. In the next couple of cutscenes, we see Tommy arrive in Vice City to meet his lawyer, Ken Rosenberg, and they set off to collect some cocaine in exchange for some cash. However, just as he shows the seller the green, an unknown third party ambushes the deal, killing everybody involved except for those who are needed for the plot. Seriously though, thank God Tommy was wearing his bullet-repelling teal shirt that day. Anyway, after Tommy and Rosenberg retreat, our protagonist calls his boss and tells him what happened, informing him that he lost the drugs and the money. After Sonny yells at him through the phone, Tommy assures him that he'll recover everything that was lost and will take revenge on the ambushers. At which point, Sonny's demeanor shifts to that of a calm but threatening tone before ending the call. Tommy then frustratedly throws the phone into the ground as the cutscene ends. And from here on, our protagonist's sole focus is on figuring out who killed who shot up the deal. Through the next few missions, Tommy and Rosenberg get to work at tracking down the ambushers, which leads to us attending a yacht party where we're given brief introductions to various characters who will become relevant later on, including the drug baron Ricardo Diaz. We'll only become familiar with the vast majority of these characters if, or when in many cases, we partake in the side missions involving them. But I really like how this mission has a valid narrative reason for all these characters to congregate into one location in order to foreshadow them to the player. This isn't a mission that spoils any plot points, but it gives us a teaser into Vice City's underworld in such a unique way that I don't think any other GTA game since has been able to pull off such a feat. Nonetheless, following the party, Tommy finds and interrogates this extremely British twat to get a lead on who attacked the deal, only to go overboard and subsequently kill said lead. But it's okay, because while he's busy beating his corpse, this cool and mysterious black 80s man shows up because he's got a common interest with our protagonist. As it turns out, this guy, who will later learn his name Lance, and who will even later learn his name Lance Vance, and who will even later learn has some sick-ass Lance Vance dance moves, he was the brother of the seller who died in the ambush, so he wants revenge too. As well as a new brother presumably, which I can only assume is the reason he gives this violent stranger a gun and lets him drive his expensive car. Anyway, after this mission, Lance drives off into the sunset, disappearing until our protagonist needs him again. Alright, I'm getting a bit hung up on these early missions, and I'm really not trying to make this an hour-long video. So, let's start speedrunning this shit. The Forellis need a job done, and Tommy still works for them, so Tommy does the job. Sonny then calls Tommy to remind him about the money, and then disappears again for a while. Next, we do a few missions for this real estate dude, Avery Carrington, in exchange for some cash. Then, we do another few missions for the guy who owns the yacht, Colonel Cortez. But not only do we do these missions in exchange for some cash, but the main reason is to get closer to finding out who shot up the deal. In the last of these missions, Cortez asks us to look over a deal for Ricardo Diaz, the drug baron from earlier. And as we retrieve a weapon the Colonel has stashed for us, Lance magically shows up again to give his assistance. Then after he protects Diaz's cats and dogs from some hungry Haitians, he forces Tommy to work for him, and in each of his cutscenes, we see just how deranged and unhinged the Coke Lord is as he throws tantrums over the most minor of inconveniences. Although, you know what? If I had the guns and money this guy did, I might vent my frustration by shooting technology I don't understand too, so maybe I'm judging him a bit too harshly here. Regardless, while Tommy's busy getting on Diaz's good side, Lance uncovers that he was the one who ordered the ambush, but before they can cast their revenge upon him, Tommy wants to learn as much as he can from the drug barons so that they have less to figure out when they usurp him. Thankfully, Lance is rational and understanding of Tommy's reasoning, so he patiently follows the plan as he waits for our protagonist. God fucking damn it, Lance. Right, so Lance forgets that he's not the main character and Vegeta's his way to near death, just for Tommy to save him just in time to yell at him for not wanting to work with the man who killed his brother. You tell him, Tommy. Because of this, Tommy and Lance have to push forward with their plan to kill Diaz, but it's not gonna be easy. We're gonna need guns. Big guns. And we're gonna need... No, actually, we just needed the guns. Wow, that was easier than I thought. Anyway, Diaz is dead, and now his business is ours. Sweet. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, so far it feels like the story is a bit rushed. Like, the lead up to determining the man responsible for the ambush at the beginning of the game and killing that man, and then taking over his business to become Vice City's king of coke, it honestly went by pretty quickly. In one of my recent playthroughs of the game, I got to this point after about 2 hours. 2 hours, that's all it took to be on top of the world. But you know what? Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. If it only took 2 hours to reach this point, then surely there will be so much more game to play. And actually, I'm not on top of the world yet because Sonny just reminded me that he exists. So I guess I've still got that conflict with him to look forward to. Right, so Tommy and Lance have established their empire, but what do we have next? Oh, some businesses in the mall are refusing to pay protection money? Tommy Vercetti will take care of it. What's that? A rival security organization is trying to undercut us? Tommy Vercetti will take care of it. Now what? This schmuck can't even properly commit an act of terrorism? Tommy Vercetti will take care of it. What's next? No, wait, really, what's next? Okay, we're earning some revenue off the mansion, that's great and all, but seriously, what's next? Okay, well, while I figure this out, I guess now's as good a time as any to talk about today's sponsors. Right, as if anybody would sponsor me. I mean, have you met me? I'm me. I don't even like GTA 3. I can't be marketable. Although, if you'd like to sponsor me, I won't stop you from becoming a member. Just saying. Anyway, though, I should mention real quick that during these last few missions, Lance has been getting a bit antsy, and he makes it clear that he's becoming upset with Tommy. Our protagonist does his best to ease him for now, but it's easy to feel uneasy at this point about the stance of Lance Vance. That might not be much of an issue if we can progress through the story, though, so since I can't figure out where to go from here, I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk about Danny Trejo, or as he's known in this game, Machete. So at some point in this game, we get a random phone call summoning us out to Little Havana. As it turns out, Machete and his dad, we'll call him Cleaver, or the Big Cleve, they run a coffee shop, and Isidore Cortez here, not to be confused with Colonel Cortez, wants to make sure that Tommy's got some big cojones, so he asks him to face his greatest fear. Water. After our protagonist proves himself, Machete, who those of us avid Spy Kids enjoyers all know canonically hates Haitians, asks us to go kill some Haitians. So per his request, we kill some Haitians. Why? Something about the exchange of cash, I guess? Whatever, I don't really mind this tangent all too much since Machete's a pretty funny character. Plus, the mission cannon fodder is just a fun little running gun that features a moment I found funny when one of the Cubans calls for backup, and a whole taxi them just pull up faster than if you offered them all green cards. Oh, also, while we're busy killing Haitians, this big Haitian mama uses some Papa Shango voodoo magic or some shit to get Tommy to kill some Cubans. Even having him use... No, you gotta be the RC plane! It's all coming back to me. 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 Sorry, I just had some weird dream where I had to...
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Yep. That's why I don't do 0 missions in fucking San Andreas. If there's one missions I will never do, is 0 missions. Fuck out of here.
Kill a bunch of Cubans using a shitty RC plane. Just thank God that was not canon though, because we all know a man with cojones as big as Tommy's would never kill a Cuban. But you know who's not Cuban? The Haitians. And Machete needs us to cut their legs out by Trojan horsing their headquarters. Fucking dumbasses. All in all though, this is a fun little side story that adds some life into Vice City by involving our protagonist into the turmoil of the town's gang scene. The missions aren't too difficult, not even the RC one really, and Machete here adds plenty of comedic moments to the story anytime he's on screen. But since I still haven't figured out how to progress past Copland, let's talk about the other side story. Remember that extremely British twat Tommy violently threatened earlier? Well, he's the manager of Love Fist, a rock band that's performing in Vice City, and he asked us to run a few errands for them in exchange for some cash, as well as to protect them against a stalker. But all this hanging out with the 80s hottest hair band causes Tommy to go through a phase and join a biker gang, so that they can help him protect Love Fist against the stalker. Now, I like bikes, I think they're cool. Leather can look cool too, just look at Rhea Ripley if you need proof. But the thing about bikers is that they're good with bikes, and not so good with limos. Unfortunately, the stalker stays 10 steps ahead of us by choosing to strap a bomb inside of Love Fist's limo instead of the bikers' bikes. And this bomb will detonate if we go under 50 miles its speed. This mission is the plot of Speed because of course it is. Not that there's anything wrong with that, the Speed plot always has the potential for a good time. I should know, back when I used to play on that GTA 5 RP server back in the day, I tried to recreate Speed myself until I was pit maneuvered by the cop I was asking for help and consequently exploded. Just as would probably happen in real life if I were a few shades darker. But yeah, you play the Speed mission during this chain, and while you can get absolutely fucked by that unforgiving detonation meter, it's still a fun mission all around. You know, I feel like I've spent a lot more time talking about this mission than I really should have, but to be honest, I really just wanted to tell that RP story since I never really got to make anything out of that video back in the day. That's all. Okay, now that I've bought myself some time by talking about Speed, I'm proud to announce that I've finally figured out how to progress in the main story. All you have to do is complete 6 more assets. Alright, that shouldn't be too bad. Let me just... Oh. Fuck, this is gonna take a while. Alright, let's get cracking. Jesus goddamn Christ. 3.5 hours. Not counting the side content I ran in the meantime, it took me 3.5 hours to acquire enough assets to unlock the last set of missions. We'll revisit this major roadblock in the story soon, but real quick, let's just finish this damn story already. So it turns out that while we've been busy running around building the Vercetti Empire, Sonny sent down some Forelli men to tax our businesses. Alright, so first of all, who the hell is Sonny?
Where's the goddamn money?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I've been so busy doing the goddamn side content that I completely forgot what the main plot even pertained to. Anyway, so the Forellis are pissed and taxing our businesses. Okay, Tommy Vercetti will take care of it. What's next? Sonny's coming down to confront us? Alright, Tommy Vercetti will... Wait, what? Already? Dude, I just got back into the main story and within 2 missions is the last mission of the game? What the actual fuck is this pacing? Right, so, Sonny's coming, which means I guess we need a plan. Okay, well, since we run a counterfeit cash factory, let's just give him some Monopoly money and send him on his way. Easy. You got it, Rosenberg? Cool. You got it, Lance? Cool. Lance? Lance, what are you— Oh, for fuck's sake! Lance, what are you doing? You are my brother! You were meant to destroy the Forellis, not join them! Oh well.
You picked the wrong side, Lance.
Sweet, now that that problem's solved, wait. What's happening to my money? That's my money! Damn it, Sonny, now I gotta kill you too. I hope you're ready, because I'm about to— You know, I can't help but feel like I overtrained for this. Alright, and that's all. The Forellis are gone, Lance and Sonny are dead, and now we're left with just Tommy and Rosenberg to live the rest of their days as the kings of Vice City. That is until— yeah. So now that it's all said and done, let's take a moment to review. When we first take control of our character, his primary objective is to right a wrong he didn't commit, or else there will be hell to pay. But before this point, the game does a great job at showing exactly how he got into this predicament in the first place. From here on, we enjoy a slow and steady enough build towards uncovering who shot up the deal, but after this, it feels like the story's pacing just speeds the hell up out of nowhere. When we first uncover that it was Diaz who ordered the ambush, Tommy decides to play the long game, only for Lance to upend his plans and force us to kill him within just a few missions. Then, as the pacing continues to ramp up, it all comes to a sudden stop when the game cockblocks you out of the final mission chain by forcing you to complete a huge chunk of side content out of nowhere. This is genuinely my biggest frustration with the story. I could be fine with a fast pacing if it leads to something good, but for everything to come to a halt out of nowhere like this really brings down the story overall, since that side content that you're being forced to do is likely going to take you such a long time to complete, that by the time you finished it, all that momentum leading up to Sonny Forelli's arrival is just lost. Like, I don't really care about beating him anymore by this point because he's been off my mind for so long that I've legitimately forgotten about him, and what's worse about this random halt in the story is that the game doesn't properly tell you what you need to do to unlock the final portion of the game. You'd think that maybe there'd be a prompt telling you to go around town and buy up some properties, or at the least that there'd be a post-mission phone call after Copland, the last mission up to this point, to advise you on how to progress, but no. All we get is Lance bitching that Tommy's not treating him fairly. Granted, a couple missions earlier, we do get a phone call from Avery Carrington telling us that we can buy up properties, right after a cutscene that also tells us that we can, but neither this phone call nor cutscene make any implication that purchasing properties will advance you in the story. Plus, the fact that you have to complete 6 of the 8 assets with a random one being required without giving any signs of inference that doing so will unlock the last missions is just a complete mindfuck that will more than likely force the player to quit unless they can find a way to acquire this knowledge. I'll be honest, I almost certainly would have been one of those people if I played this game when I was a kid, since I didn't have access to the internet. And if it weren't for me googling how to progress when I got to this part for the first time a few years ago, I absolutely would have given up and never would have finished Vice City.
I actually did give up. I didn't know what to do. None of us knew what to do. We had the game guides and the game informers, but no. Niggas didn't read, bruh. The game guides was out there, but our parents weren't finna buy them for us. The complete game guide to beating Grand Theft Auto Vice City, sitting right there for $4.99, $5. Parents wouldn't buy it for us. We didn't have access to the internet, so I just gave up. And then a little bit later, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out, and I just forgot about Vice City. I actually deemed Vice City as the worst game ever. Until we got that phone, TV, DSL. Phone, TV, DSL. Once we got that phone, TV, DSL package from Time Warner, the first thing I did, I swear to God, the first thing I did, how do you beat Grand Theft Auto Vice City? You gotta acquire all these goddamn places. I was like, why didn't they tell us that in the fucking game? That would have made more sense. But nah, they just had us sitting there looking stupid, guessing.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man. Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Like, I literally gave up on this game. I said this was the worst Grand Theft Auto game ever made. But after I finally beat it, I said this is the greatest Grand Theft Auto game ever made. Now, granted, I do agree the pacing in this game is terrible. The pacing is fucking terrible. The story is great. It's just the pacing of it. It's like before you know it, you done already conquered one problem. Now it's like, what else is there to do? It's like, okay. So you just keep going along with the story until you get to the point where you ain't got no more missions. And then you gotta start buying assets to get more missions. It's like, how the fuck would I know that?
Whatever though, I'll stop bitching about these assets and move on to that mythical final mission chain. So after spending a good number of hours playing through the first part of the story, and then spending that same amount of hours doing useless bullshit, surely the story will ease you back into things so that you can recollect the major plot points leading up to the finale. Nah, you get one mission chasing down some members of the main antagonist gang, and then one more mission where you kill the main antagonist. Take it or leave it. Like I said, this game's pacing is fucking criminal. With all those faults being out in the open, however, I still thoroughly enjoy being able to play through the story for one reason or another, be it because of its iconic characters like the enigmatic Lance Vance or the comedic Isidore Cortez, or its fun and unique missions like All Hands on Deck, Trojan Voodoo, and Demolition Man, because that mission is not hard and neither is Wrong Side of the Tracks, or its badass protagonist charismatically voiced by the late great Ray Liotta, who must be aware of his plot armor given all the death-defying scenarios he just powers through. Must be them big cojones. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is a game that I occasionally find myself craving a replay of just to be transported back into this stunning world. Sure, its story may not be as fleshed out as those of the games that came after it, but weirdly enough, it doesn't need to be. Vice City is a simple power fantasy, and unlike GTA 3, it's actually fun for me to sit back and walk in the shoes of Tommy Vercetti as he conquers this beautiful town. But there's plenty of other reasons why I love replaying this game every now and then, so let's finally move on from the story to talk about another reason why I enjoy this game so much. One common argument I got in the comment section of my recent video discussing GTA 3 was how you just had to be there to properly experience the game. According to many viewers of that video, there's just a certain vibe that game recreates that resonates with its players and compels them to come back and terrorize the streets of Liberty City again. Now that's an opinion I can completely respect, even if it's not something I necessarily agree with since I don't really care for the vibe that game gives off. However, I do understand what those people are saying because Vice City also has an undeniable vibe radiating off of everything within its world, and the thought of experiencing that vibe again is enough to draw me back in from time to time. So let's now go over exactly what I believe that vibe entails. First off, we've got to go over the game's colorfully vibrant HUD. Whereas GTA 3 and even San Andreas' HUDs were rather bland, what with 3's dark yellowish minimap and crude, rough-looking stats in the upper right corner, as well as San Andreas' more basic color scheme for its HUD, every display icon in Vice City gives off a bright and calming hue that just makes my brain happy. The health stat is a bright pink, the clock is a light blue, the cache is a pretty green, and every weapon features a beautiful fade from a spectacular blue to a hot pink. As far as the minimap is concerned, it has a pretty pink border while all the terrains within its contents arguably utilize a nicer shade of color than the same terrains would in San Andreas. I should note as well that most of the footage I'm using in this video is modded, so feel free to take my words with as many grains of salt as you need. But the mods I use remain faithful to their original concepts and more or less just upscale the original textures to something more pleasing to look at in 2025. That's enough about the HUD though. Let's move on to talk about this beautiful map that Rockstar gave us to roam around on. Right when the game starts, we're given the opportunity to see this world at its best as we immediately drive down Ocean Drive to see these buildings' neon lights contrast against the night sky. Or if you get the chance to fly a helicopter or plane at night to see the entire city light up, that's a whole nother treat. But it's not just nighttime when this city shines. Try driving around as the sun rises or sets and just take in that beautiful orange hue as it lights up your screen. Or even if you observe this world during the daytime, you'll still be treated to a bright blue sky that's visually pleasing to the eyes. Let's forget about the daylight cycle for a minute though, because no matter what time you look at the water in this game, it's always a stunning sight. As far as the map itself is concerned, the town of Vice City is always a pleasure to drive through, be it for the vibrant sights or to witness it breathe its life. One fault I'll give the city, particularly the first main island, is that it can be a bit of a pain in the ass to navigate at times due to its road layout. But even if you get lost in the town, that just means you'll have more opportunity to see its sights. At least Rockstar gives you a better way to navigate this time around though, seeing as how you have a pause menu map at your disposal this time. Speaking of the sights though, let's talk about some of them. You've got these massive beaches on the east end of the map that can provide for a good walk, especially when you see a roller skater get stuck in the sand. There's also some pretty cool interiors like the Malibu Club or the Vice Point Mall, where you can spend a healthy amount of time just taking in the vibe and absolutely not admiring the male dancers, totally. Then once we get past the first main island, you can also explore the vast Vercetti estate and just take in the view of the ocean on which it rests. Or if you find yourself missing the gritty ghettos of Liberty City, you can always pay a visit to Little Havana or Little Haiti to watch some little hate crimes unfold. Then you can see the results of said hate crimes, witness a miracle as its victims are given a second chance, and watch watch as they fall into the same bad habits that got them in that predicament to begin with. God, I just love nature. It makes sense that out of the 3 main 3D era GTA games, Vice City would be the most vibrant and colorful, seeing as how it takes place at a time when cocaine was running rampant through its real-world counterparts, since drugs seem to make everything brighter and prettier than they actually are. Or so I've heard. Not for real though, I've never done so much as smoke a marijuana cigarette. To my knowledge of drugs and their effects are purely secondhand. But I think that brightness and vibrancy heavily works in Vice City's favor because it undeniably adds to the pleasures that come with replaying this title. Unlike how GTA 3's grayness and dreariness is more of a turnoff for me than anything. I guess that makes sense, since I admittedly prefer to play visually stimulating and colorful games over the more blandish looking ones if I'm given the choice. That's one of the reasons why I gave Fortnite more of a chance than PUBG back in the day. Although for the record, I haven't played Fortnite since like 2019, so y'all can stop with these fucking comments now. That's not to say that a grayish looking game can't be good, as I honestly think I've started to prefer GTA 4 over GTA 5 in recent years. But I think it's fair to say that there's a good reason why so many players play GTA 4 nowadays with a mod that removes that gray filter. Anyway, I think I made my point about Vice City's beautiful setting. So let's now move on to another reason why I love to boot this bad boy up every once in a while, and that's because of its amazing soundtrack. As if your visuals couldn't get overloaded enough from the sensations Vice City pumps into them through its vibrancy, let's talk about how the game's soundtrack sends banger after banger after banger after banger into your ear holes through its diverse set.
Fucking literally, the soundtrack to this mother. Hey, say what you want. Grand Theft Auto Vice City, best soundtrack. Out of all the Grand Theft Auto games, Vice City got the best soundtrack. From Michael Jackson to all the 80s hit classics, bruh, can't be touched. Like, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people gonna say San Andreas. You can't beat Michael Jackson. I'm sorry. Any soundtrack with Michael Jackson on it is you're cooked. It's over with. You're cooked. It's not up for debate, bruh. Be real.
Of radio stations. Now I should preface this section with a couple of details about myself. First of all, for those of you unaware, I was born nearly a decade and a half after this game was set. Consequently, I wasn't around in the 80s. In case you're wondering why I feel the need to mention this, many commenters on my videos about GTA 3 have informed me that my opinion on the game is irrelevant since I wasn't around when that game came out. So I just want to warn you now that as I judge this game's soundtrack, that judgment is coming from somebody who wasn't alive when any song in this game came out. So take my words with a lost shaker of salt. Secondly, and this one's actually a bit relevant, I'm a huge fan of rock music, and until a few years ago, I couldn't really stand anything that wasn't rock, especially rap. So keep that in mind as I talk about some of these songs. Now then, finally onto the radio stations. Which one should I talk about first? Well, since I already told you that I love rock music, I guess I should start with perhaps the greatest encapsulation of an era of rock and roll, V-Rock. This station is absolutely stacked with some of the best music of the decade, as it features songs like Ozzy Osbourne's Bark at the Moon, Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot, Anthrax's Madhouse, and Too Young to Fall in Love by Motley Crue. There's also so many other great bands that are featured here that deserve a quick shout, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and The Cult, as well as plenty of songs that take me back to listening to the radio with my dad when I was a kid. Songs like I Wanna Rock and Working for the Weekend. But there's just not enough time in the day to go through the entire list of bangers provided by this radio station. Although one more cool inclusion I'll mention is that of the in-game band we helped out earlier, Love Fist, who have 2 original songs featured within this playlist. One more thing I briefly want to mention about this station is that it's hilariously hosted by Laszlo. As we'll know if we played the prequeling Vice City Stories, was formerly just an intern on the station, and there's a cool segment that occasionally plays where Cousin Ed, the former DJ, calls in to berate him for taking his job. If you've never noticed that detail before, be sure to listen out for the next time you play through this game. Next, let's talk about some of the classic 80s pop music this game features by way of Flash FM. This station has a plethora of songs that'll make you nostalgic for this era, regardless of whether you actually grew up in it or not. Just take me for example here. This station features classics like Out of Touch by Hall & Oates, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes, Video Killed the Radio Star by The Buggles, and Japanese Boy by Anika, or Anika, Asuka. No, not that one, this one. Then we also have Wave 103, which lines up a healthy combination of new wave, synth pop, and post-punk, whatever the fuck those 3 genres are, on his airwaves. Right, I got those adjectives from the GTA wiki, so I don't exactly know what the fuck they are, but I can confidently say that they mean good as fuck, because here we can listen to other classics like Animotion's Obsession, A Flock of Seagulls, I Ran So Far Away, Kids in America by Kim Wilde, and Nina's Richthofen's 99 Luftballons, the equally great original German version of the song 99 Red Balloons. The rest of the radio stations in this game have their own healthy selections of S-tier music. But since I don't feel like talking about each station in detail, let's just speedrun a few of the greatest songs from the remaining stations. In addition to the songs I've already gone over, there's also I Just Died in Your Arms by Cutting Crew, Night Ranger's Sister Christian, La Vida es una lenteja por una Rockbox by Run DMC, and The Message by Grandmaster Flash in The Furious 5. Which, remember how I said I used to hate rap music? Yeah, well, this song has easily become one of my favorites in this entire game. It's even higher up there for me than some of the rock songs. There's plenty of other great songs I could talk about as well, but I'm sure you get the point by now. While the GTA games of the modern day have absolutely massive musical libraries filled by so many radio stations that most players will find their select few and never deviate from them, looking at you, GTA 5. Vice City's more limited number of stations forces you to give the other genres of music a shot from time to time. Actually, force isn't exactly the right word. I'd rather say that the game encourages you to listen to the other stations by not having an easy alternative to switch to whenever some annoying commercials come on, because since each station is packed with bangers, you're almost guaranteed to find joy by listening to any of these stations at any given time. In games like San Andreas and GTA's 4 and 5, it's very likely that when I get into a new car, I'm gonna switch the station to something I'm more comfortable listening to, like Radio X. But no matter which station is playing in Vice City, it's very rare that I immediately switch the station because I don't care for what's currently playing. Soundtracks like this are what so frequently compel me to pick up games I haven't played in a long time, because these are the kinds of soundtracks that help immerse me and transport me into the setting the game is trying to put me in. Every now and then, I get the urge to play Thrillville just to hear its pop-punk era songs in the background as I stroll through my theme parks. SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 never fails to get me in the mood to whoop some divas' asses as The Undertaker after hearing Animal I Become while walking around my locker room, and just hearing a song that was in Vice City play in any other facet of my life just fills me with the need to take a cruise down Ocean Drive. But as great as Vice City's story is to play through, as fulfilling as it is to watch the sunset over the beach, and as good as the game's songs just make me feel whenever I listen to them, it's now time to take a quick break from sniffing the coke and look at some of the game's negatives from a sober perspective. Despite the beautiful sunshine and rainbows this game is chock full of, it's time to acknowledge that even Vice City has its faults. This game may have had significant improvements over its older brother, but it's important to remember that at its core, Vice City is just GTA 3 with a fresh coat of colorful paint. The game was originally designed to be an expansion of GTA 3 after all, so it shouldn't be shocking that it carries with it some of the drawbacks that came with its predecessor as a result. So, let's take a minute or two to talk about some of them. First of all, one of my biggest pet peeves with GTA 3 is the fact that you can't look around the way that you can in future games like San Andreas, and Vice City is no different in this regard. Sure, if you play either of these games on a keyboard and mouse, then it's a different story. But for those of us who played this game for the first time on the PS2, it can be an absolute struggle to get over this obstacle if you're used to the convenience of the 360 camera controls that have become commonplace in these types of games. It doesn't help either that this problem persists on the PC version while you're in a car, and while I'm sure there's mods that exist to fix this problem, the ones that I've tried have provided mixed results at best. One other issue I have, and stop me if you've heard this one before, is that you can't swim in this game. Yes, I know that this topic has been talked about more than my hatred for
The dumbest shit ever. You make a map that's centered around water, but our character can't swim. That was the dumbest shit ever.
GTA 3 at this point, although I am coming for that title, but that doesn't mean that it's not relevant to discuss it. I've had people make the argument that it's actually a good thing that Tommy Vercetti can't swim, since having such an ability would have meant having to spend a while trekking out to a ledge from which you can return to the mainland as opposed to just death warping, as this could certainly be an issue in San Andreas if you fall off the wrong cliff out in the woods. But I personally still would have loved it if we could swim through these beautiful waters. I mean, just look at this beach. You're telling me you didn't want to swim up and down this coastline as a kid? I'll give Rockstar credit at least, as they apparently did try to implement swimming into this game, but the developers just couldn't figure out how to code it properly before Vice City's release. Still though, for me, it's just a case of what could have been. One more issue I'll go over is the lack of major improvement when it comes to gunplay. Sure, while the PS2 version of Vice City did upgrade the shooting HUD to make it more obvious who you're targeting versus GTA 3's version of this HUD, these mechanics are still the same at the end of the day, and Vice City still has most of the same drawbacks that GTA 3 did in this regard. For example, another big issue I had with GTA 3 was the stiffness that came with shooting larger weapons, as it forced you to become stationary for a second before you could use them. Unfortunately, Vice City didn't really fix this problem, and because of this, I usually feel compelled to carry either a small pistol or an SMG on me at all times as opposed to their heavier counterparts, so that I can retain my mobility in certain situations situations and avoid situations like these that lead to my death. Thankfully, the gunplay in Grand Theft Auto was greatly improved in San Andreas, but having to endure these types of shootouts can undoubtedly make Vice City feel like an archaic chore to come back to. I will say though, I've heard about the Definitive Edition's recent update that actually improved the gunplay in both Vice City and GTA 3, and while at the time of this recording I haven't tried said update yet, I'm actually looking forward to giving it a try here soon, so stay tuned if you want to hear my thoughts on that. I'm sure there's more negatives lingering from GTA 3 that I could talk about that bring down the overall experience of Vice City, but those were the main ones that I wanted to address. And now that the negatives are out of the way, let's go back to some of the positives by talking about the things that Vice City improved over its older brother. As I talked about earlier, Vice City was originally meant to be an expansion of sorts for GTA 3. It was built on the foundation that GTA 3 laid and was only released 1 year after it. It's also pretty easy to see that the two games share a lot of the same bones if you pay attention to things like the animations and the AI, so it might be fair to assume that Vice City didn't improve much on the game on which it was based. However, while it may share a few of the same flaws as its older brother, you'd be surprised to see just how many innovations and improvements Vice City came up with to stand out over its predecessor. The first thing we'll go over here is Vice City's superior car physics. One complaint that I've kept bringing up in all of my videos discussing GTA 3 is how fragile that game's cars are, and how the simplest of crashes can cause your car to flip over given how top heavy they are. In Vice City, however, this problem was fixed as cars are now much more resilient and feel like they can take much more punishment before they catch on fire. Additionally, it's now much tougher to flip your car over as vehicles tend to land on their wheels more often than not in this world. That's not to say that you can't flip your car over though, so still take it easy out there. One other thing I want to tack on here is the sick way the camera shifts around your car whenever you drift in this game. From what I can tell, this action shot shamefully doesn't exist in San Andreas. But while this doesn't necessarily add anything to the gameplay of Vice City, it's just a cool little detail that makes it more thrilling to drive around this town. One other feature that Vice City nailed on the head was the new way to navigate shop menus. Whereas in GTA 3, you had to walk into these gun pickups inside the ammunitions to buy guns, and then had to wait for those pickups to respawn to buy additional ammo, Vice City streamlined things by allowing you to scroll through a selection of weapons on the wall and seamlessly purchase as much ammo as you need for them. Again, this feature was sadly negatively altered in San Andreas by forcing you to wait through these animations to change the gun you wish to purchase. But Rockstar clearly realized their mistake by the time they got to the stories games, since they each used the Vice City method for navigating these shops. I also want to mention that a version of this method is even still in place in the most modern iteration of Grand Theft Auto, as GTA 5 allows you to seamlessly buy and upgrade weapons in the same fashion. Next, let's talk about some of the side contents of this game. While GTA 3 introduced a few new game modes as the series entered the 3D era, game modes like Paramedic, Firefighter, Taxi, and others, Vice City arguably improved on some of these modes and added a few new fun ones. The main minigame I'll discuss here is Firefighter, since this may be considered a controversial change. Whereas in GTA 3, the objective of each level in this mode was simply to track down a flaming car and extinguish it, Vice City took this model and upgraded it to add a bit more of a challenge. Instead of having to extinguish just a car, after the first level, you start having to put out the car's flaming occupants as well as they run away from you. As each level increases, so too does the number of occupants in the car, until you eventually have to put out a second car and then a third, which both also receive more occupants as you reach higher levels. To beat Firefighter in GTA 3, you have to pass 20 levels on each of the 3 islands, and you don't have to beat them consecutively either. In Vice City, however, while you only need to beat 12 levels, you now have to complete them all in a row, and if you fuck up, you have to restart. It's up for debate on which of these systems is superior over the other, and I believe that just comes down to personal preference, so I won't argue that either version of the game mode is better. But in my opinion, I find Vice City's updated version of Firefighter to be a funner, more challenging experience, so I'll consider it an improvement over its earlier iteration. Vigilante was also updated in a similar fashion, but since this mode has never really been my cup of tea, I don't exactly feel it's my place to discuss it. However, a couple other game modes I'll briefly mention are Pizza Boy and Distribution. Pizza Boy is incredibly simple. Just hop on this little scooter and deliver pizzas to the residents of Vice City within the time limit. Each level you pass spawns one more customer, but you only have 6 pizzas to work with, so whenever you run out, you have to swing back around the store and pick up some more pizzas. After you complete 10 levels, you win and unlock a nice 50% health bonus. As for Distribution, this mode is unlocked after you buy the ice cream factory, and the goal is to drive around town and find customers to sell ice cream and totally not Coke to. After you sell 50 consecutively, you complete the mode and unlock the asset from the factory. But be careful, because for every 4 packages sold, you'll earn a star on your wanted level, which can create problems if you're too impatient to wait for the 1 star to go down. All in all, these are a couple of fun little side activities that you can do to pass the time in exchange for some cash. Speaking of wanted levels though, let's talk about the improved cop AI in this game. Yet another huge issue I have in GTA 3 is how aggressive and unrelenting the cops can be if you piss them off, which can be fun to deal with if you're just screwing around, but should you attain a wanted level higher than 3 stars while you're on a mission, all I'll say is good fucking luck. In Vice City though, the cops' aggression has been turned way down, but that doesn't mean that they become pushovers. Cop cars may not try to crash into your car at 100 miles an hour anymore, but they'll still run your ass off the road if you aren't careful now that they've learned how to strategically push you into obstacles and try to box you in. As for pedestrian cops, no longer do they just take aimless potshots at you as you pass them by. Now they're much more of a fun challenge to have to avoid, since they'll throw spike strips out in the middle of the road to pop your tires, which will ruin your chances to flee the pursuing cop cars unless you're lucky enough to be near a pay and spray. I'm not exactly sure how popular of a change this was though, since this behavior was removed from the pedestrian cops of San Andreas, but was then re-added into the stories games. But all I know is that I love this challenge infinitely more than having your car be gradually worn down by these fuckers on the side of the road with no opportunity to outmaneuver them whatsoever. Once again, I'm sure there's plenty of other features in Vice City that I'm neglecting to mention that either improved on what GTA 3 provided or just added to the overall experience. Things like helicopters and unclipped planes, motorcycles, NPC passengers outside of missions, the ability to crouch, and so much more. But I'm sure this video is long enough by now, and I just don't have the time to talk about every little detail. Although I absolutely would if I didn't care about this video's length, because I really do love this game. So let's quickly review what's been talked about so far to figure out once and for all why Vice City is so beloved. At its core, Grand Theft Auto Vice City is nothing more than just the sequel to Grand Theft Auto 3. Well, I guess technically a prequel since it takes place beforehand, but you know what I mean. With how similarly the two games look and play, it would be fair to assume that Vice City is just as bad as its predecessor if you only look at its surface. But when you dig a bit deeper and look into how Vice City so greatly differentiated itself from its big brother, it becomes abundantly clear why the game is held on a pedestal as high as it is over the game that laid the groundwork for it to be held in such high regard. From Vice City's coke-fueled power fantasy of a story chock full of memorable and iconic characters, to its stunning setting and visuals that will fill you full of dopamine at the sight of them, to the rush of 80s nostalgia the radio will give you as soon as you turn it on, to the significant updates and changes to the gameplay to make the experience so much more enjoyable, it's really tough to make the argument that Vice City is a bad game. Sure, it does have a few remaining issues from its predecessor that were yet to be ironed out, but those minor drawbacks aside, it's a fair assessment to make that Vice City is an incredibly fun game to play through, even in the year 2025. Sure, it doesn't have half the features that San Andreas went on to implement, nor does it have the realism and grittiness of GTA 4 or the graphical fortitude of GTA 5, but it doesn't need to have any of these things. For one reason or another, Vice City is just in a league of its own because even though it's undeniably inferior to those titles I just mentioned, it still holds up with them. Or at least, it does in my personal opinion, but now I'd like to hear what you think. Do you agree with me that Vice City is as great as I say it is? Do you perhaps think it's even better than other games like San Andreas? Or do you think it's worse and that I need to stop sucking Tommy Vercetti's cocaine? Please share your opinion in the comment section down below, and while you're there, be sure to hit the like button if you've enjoyed this video. Or if you didn't like it, well, you can still hit the like button, I won't stop you. And lastly, of course, if you want to see more content like this in the future, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. But speaking of the subscribe button, as the time of writing this, I've just surpassed 2,500 subscribers.
Hey, man. It is what it is, though. Vice City, like I said, Vice City, in my personal opinion, Vice City is fucking goated. It's fucking goated, and it's top 2 and it's not 2, okay? It's Vice City, then it's San Andreas, and then the rest of the GTAs, y'all can sort that out yourselves. That's just me personally. But anyway, so let's just go about doing for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.